Risk, failure, success. What does the downtown ball in downtown Dallas mean to you?
I guess everyone, do you know what he's referring to, the Reunion Tower, the ball in downtown Dallas? Well, it was relatively new. I think it opened in 1978. And I was with Republic at the time. And so I was 25, and Patty and I had been dating quite a while, and it was time to pop the question. So remember, these are different. You couldn't pull this off today. So what I did, I thought, what a great place. I think I'll go up to the ball, Reunion Tower. But I hired a single-engine plane to pull a banner, "Patty, will you marry me?" and circle that ball in downtown Dallas. Now, if you tried that today, they'd shoot you out of the sky. And so we went, and it became headline news, front page, Dallas Morning News. Channel 8 was in that area looking up. They saw the plane. They ran up with cameras. But it was a great engagement that we'll never forget. But the interesting thing is they keep having us back and giving interviews, and when they have because it's become the go-to place for proposals in Dallas, and they credit us with the first one and the big splash. So and then since then, Patty will go, "Well, you don't take me every year," but my daughter Trisha, when she was 3, we went up there to have dinner for her birthday. Then we did it the next year. And she'll be 36, and we've done it every single year on her birthday. Sometimes we've had to do it, a couple of days afterwards, but we've never missed a year. When it was under construction for renovation, I knew the contractor. It was Beck, and they let us go up in hard hats, and we took 2 sandwiches, and so we wouldn't miss a year. So.
I just want to admit to something that, yes, you started something because I proposed to Elise up in the ball.
You did?
Yeah, and she said yes, surprisingly enough.
Wow.
So we have something in common. Okay, so I want to move on to something else that is separate apart from banking, but is, I think, involved Dallas. You bought somebody's house, and then there were situations that occur. You want to talk about that?
I'd always wanted a place with a little more land than a typical Dallas lot. And this was back in 1993. Stanley Marcus, who had run Neiman Marcus for so long, he had an historic house because he originally wanted Frank Lloyd Wright to build it. And then the egos just clashed, and there's great Dallas history about that. Mr. Marcus tells a story about how Frank Lloyd Wright came on a January day, and it was balmy, so he said, "You'll be sleeping outside." And the plan he drew had a net that went over the entire house for mosquitoes so he could sleep outside. And so Stanley Marcus fires Frank Lloyd Wright, but it was a place where Stanley Marcus put Dallas on the map as far as fashion. And so you had the Neiman's Fortnights, and in our house you had Jerry Lewis and Dean Martin, you had Princess Grace, you had Lord Mountbatten, and just the list goes on and on. And, LBJ used to visit very often, and mainly it was because Neiman Marcus provided the gowns for Lady Bird and the daughters and all that. But I bought his house in 1994. They were scaling down because the land, it was at the time it was 7 acres, but I replatted it and sold off 3 lots and kept the house and 3 acres. So over time, the house was built in 1938. It was very solid and strong, but we always had plans to renovate it. And in 2008, they had asked me if Texas could put a historical marker on it. I said, well, we're going to probably tear it down or renovate. They said, this has no effect on it. You can still do whatever you want, but you just have to, all we ask is that you let us know. Okay, well, we'll do that. So we had the historical marker on it. So in 2008, we had some contractors come, and they said, to renovate this is many, many, many hundreds of thousands of dollars, and it got into the 7 figures and all that. And I was going, whoa. What could we build a new house for? And they said, much less. So I said, we had decided, let's go ahead and tear it down, build a new house. But first I have to let the Historical Commission in Austin know about it. So I wrote them a letter, and then I think we were heading out of town, and we went to Florida. And we made a driving trip with all the kids. On the way back, I started getting phone calls, Dallas Morning News and Channel 8, and what happened? What the Historical Commission, and do you have any historic buildings on campus that you what they didn't tell me is, yes, they have no power to stop you, but they will notify everybody at the city, every preservationist in the city of Dallas. They sent a letter, then the CC was a mile long, and they were just going crazy. You cannot tear down that house. And so by the time we got home, we had, and I'm not exaggerating, helicopters hovering over with the cameras over the house, and then we'd watch it on the news, and some would be live, and we'd go, Pat, and then we'd hear it above. We'd pull out of our driveway, and they would come with a microphone like this. What are you going to, So finally, and we got so many letters. Please don't tear down the house. We had articles written. We even did a pro and con. They asked me to write an opinion piece, and because they had marketed the property that it could be subdivided or torn down. Long story short, Patty and I came to the decision that so many people in the city felt, it was a proprietary type mentality about Stanley Marcus and the city of Dallas. So I said, if we're going to keep it, we're going to do it with a testimony for Christ. So we had so many eyes on us. I talked to the reporter and I said, okay, here's what I would like for you to print. Here's my quote. When I told him the quote, he said, you're going to end up, people aren't going to like that. I said, no, just print it as I'm saying it. And I said, our position is we love this city so much that our testimony for Christ is important to us. And Scripture says, as often as you can, be at peace with all people. And we're able to do that. So because of that, because of Scripture, and because of our relationships with so many people, and because we want to maintain that kind of testimony, we're agreeing to renovate and keep the house. Well, you would think that people, and so many people, thanked us graciously and all that. But there was one writer of the Dallas Observer, and his headline was, Jesus saves the Marcus house. And so, his point was, that doesn't even make sense because Stanley Marcus is Jewish. So what? And I went, well, you just missed the whole point. But so we kept the house and we live there today. And but the preservationists love us now. And if you have time, I can add one caveat to that. I was the chairman of the building committee at First Baptist Dallas that when we tore down everything and recreated our new campus. At the time, it was the largest building project of any church in history, in the world. At the time, it was a $135 million project. We blew up the campus. A couple of our buildings could have been deemed historic, but I was able to talk to the preservationists who led that in the city of Dallas, and they were so cooperative with me as chairman of that committee because we had been cooperative with them. And that's another way you see God's hand on something that at the time you go, I don't know about this.
There's a common thread through all of these stories is your faith, and it's incredibly important to you. As a husband, as a father, as a businessman, what advice would you give to our community in our faith and our walk in order to bless our community like what you did? What things could you share with us about your faith that gave you the courage and the strength to be able to do the things that you're doing?
That is a great question, because as I spoke in chapel today, and I really believe this, in the Christian life, so many people, it seems like you get frustrated in your walk, and we all do. We all have ups and downs, setbacks and challenges. But really, if you truly believe what you claim you believe, and you are living your life in a manner that glorifies the Lord, it permeates everything you do. And take banking as an example. We had a very unusual bank because we had a cross in the foyer. We had nativity scenes, openly displayed. We even had one examiner who said, I'm not sure you can do that, and also have FDIC insurance and all. Now, that they didn't give us too much trouble. But you always need to be prepared for things like that in every aspect of life. Whatever you're doing, you might be misunderstood. You might be thought of as a fanatic. Some people think you're a fanatic if you bow your head in prayer in a restaurant. But that doesn't matter, because that's what we are called to do as believers. And Patty and I have talked about this many times. It really is a privilege to be tagged as that guy or that woman in the community. One time we sold one of our banks to, and I won't say the company, but it was a very large publicly traded company. And I became the Dallas area chairman of all their banks in the Dallas area. And so when they, and I didn't know I really had this kind of impact on the senior management and CEO, but when they acquired a big banking group out of Austin, they invited all the heads of the different areas to come, and it was a big dinner, and they were introducing some of the heads in Austin and Houston and Dallas. And so when they introduced me, and they had had a few drinks at that thing, the CEO, was very loosened up, shall we say, by this time. He put his arm around me and said, I want you all to know this. This is our company's preacher. He's our preacher, and he's in Dallas, so listen to him. Well, someone came up to me afterwards and said, I'm so sorry. I said, I loved it. I love being tagged that way. And so throughout my whole time with them, I got to live that out because they were watching me and expecting that. And it's really a joy and a privilege to be able to do that in whatever area you're in. If you're in retailing, if you are in a restaurant service, whatever you do. As I told the young lady student who was leading worship today, I said, I see the Spirit of God in your face when you do this. And people can see that in you as well.
Well, I appreciate you letting me grill you on things that you didn't know I was going to ask about.
Was I too wordy?
No, you did good. You did good. I want to share with you, we've got a gift for you, a couple gifts. This is one of them. Oh, wow. And this is a horse reading a book. And hopefully it's not a green sheet or an accounting book. Yeah. It's something more interesting, like maybe theology. Because y'all may not know this, he's studying theology right now because he is a preacher, and he did a great job of preaching in chapel. And so let's give him a round of applause. Well,